All right. I'm going to go ahead and call this June 26th meeting of the Somerville School Committee to order with a moment of silence and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Act of 2023, this meeting of the school committee will be conducted via hybrid participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. As always, we'll begin by introducing our interpreters, starting with our Haitian Creole interpreter. Hello? Are they there? Sorry. Sorry again, Haitian Creole interpreter. While we wait for Haitian Creole interpreter, we'll do our Spanish interpreter.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es Erika García, seré su intérprete de español. Para escuchar esta reunión en español, haga un clic en el globo que se encuentra en la parte de abajo de su pantalla y seleccione español. Good evening, my name is Erika Garcia. I will be your Spanish interpreter for tonight. To listen to this meeting in Spanish, click the globe at the bottom of your screen and select Spanish. Thank you.
And next, our Portuguese interpreter.
Alô, boa noite. Meu nome é Ben Cruz e vou ser o seu intérprete nessa noite para a linguagem portuguesa. Para você ouvir essa reunião virtual hoje no seu idioma, é só basta você clicar nesse globo que está abaixo na sua tela e selecione língua portuguesa e você ouvirá na sua reunião no seu idioma. Good evening, this is your Portuguese interpreter Ben Cruz for this evening.
And we'll try for our Haitian Creole interpreter one more time. Haitian Creole. All right, hopefully they'll join us as soon as possible. All right, Dr. Curley, will you call the roll?
Happy to. Dr. Ackman.
Here.
Mayor Ballantyne.
Present.
Ms. Patone.
Here.
Dr. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Dion.
Here.
Ms. Barish.
Here.
President Ewenkampen.
Here.
Ms. Krepshin.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Fantastic. So we're going to do a couple of things out of order because we have a full agenda, and I'm going to try to make it move as logically and as quickly as possible. The first thing to take out of order is the public approval of the contract for our next superintendent, Dr. Ruben Carmona. Members, you've seen this contract, we discussed it, so I will entertain a motion to approve the contract.
I move to, is it authorizing the chair to sign?
Yes.
I move to authorize the chair to sign the contract for Dr. Ruben Carmona. Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Ackman, second by Dr. Phillips. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Contract is approved. I will go ahead and sign it right now. We'll have a moment in a few minutes for Dr. Cohen to say a few words if you want to say something. Please.
I'll say a couple of things. So first of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the school committee for entrusting me with the stewardship of the Somerville School District. I'm deeply humble and yet incredibly determined to ensure that we unite as a community to prioritize the well-being of our students, families, and staff. It is crucial that we place a strong emphasis on equity and excellence, workforce diversity, holistic education, 21st century learning in our schools. Achieving these goals will require our utmost dedication, innovative thinking, and unwavering collective commitment. Thank you very much for this amazing opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Carmona. I'm now going to take public comment out of order. We have 9 people signed for public comment. I'm going to give each person 2 minutes. And I will start with Will Bosworth, followed by Ali Gantini Field, and then Elizabeth Sacro-Cluck. Will, the floor is yours. Well, let's give Ms. Santiago an opportunity to pull up the timer. We're doing 2 minutes. All right, now, Mr. Bosworth, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name's Will Bosworth, 18 James Street. I live in the Winter Hill neighborhood, and I have children at the Winter Hill School. My public comment here is about the future of the Winter Hill School, specifically that the school should be rebuilt in its current location to best serve its mission and value to the existing community. The full name of the school is the Winter Hill Community Innovation School. And I want to talk about the community part. The school has experienced decades of underfunding to its physical building, but despite this, the community is thriving. The school is packed. There's literally hallways that have been converted into classrooms because so many parents choose to send their children here. School pickup and drop-off is incredibly fun at the Winter Hill Community School. I love taking my kids to school. So many kids and grown-ups walk to school, they bike to school, they linger, they show up early, they stay late. Every single day, all of the different social groups in our city, in this neighborhood, are being together and spending time with each other at the school, outside of school hours, because it's a neighborhood school. I've talked to a lot of other parents, city councilors, and administrators. There's a lot of theories about how to best replace the Winter Hill School. But please ask the actual parents of the school and the people in the neighborhood, where should the school be? Should this neighborhood have a school in it? The school that has supported, the community that has supported this school for decades, even while the city underfunded it, should keep the school. So again, I ask, formally request to please recognize the outstanding job this school has done for this community and commit to rebuilding the school in its current location. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ali Contini Field, followed by Elizabeth Sacco-Cluck, and then Emily Lyka.
I'm just going to read from a Boston Herald article, which is not my usual MO, because this is the clearest information that any of us in the school community have gotten in a month. So I'll see how much I can get in 2 minutes. Here we go. Somerville School to remain closed next year due to rotting infrastructure. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a resident at 215 Summer Street, number 1, and my 2 kids are at Winter Hill. I'm going to excerpt here. Structural engineers are studying the 95,000 square foot school built in 1975, and reports should be done sometime in July, according to Interim Superintendent Jeff Curley, Winter Hill Principal Courtney Gosselin, and Mayor Katiana Ballantyne. Because we expect assessments and final reports to take several more weeks and be sure we have a formal plan in place for the fall with enough time to plan, we've made the decision that classes will be held in an off-site location for next year, they wrote in a letter to the community. Initial inspection results shared with the Herald on Friday indicate what many Somerville residents, educators, and officials have long suspected. Infrastructure woes are very much part of Winter Hill's makeup. Sylvester Black, a senior project manager for structural engineering consultant Silman, told officials in a June 1st email that it will take more than an immediate fix to address what he called a systemic, widespread problem of water infiltration throughout the building spanning decades rather than years. The portion of concrete that fell doesn't at first glance look like it was the epicenter of the water damage Black wrote, so it raises concern that similar breaks could occur in other parts of this stairwell or other stairwells. Black met with a team of teachers, administrators, and site personnel at Winter Hill on May 31st, a day before officials notified the community of the buckling concrete that prompted the school to close. It remains unclear when the ceiling collapsed exactly. Parents then learned students would finish the year at Tufts and at Edgerly and Capuano. Much of the systemic water damage history is not obvious on a sunny day like yesterday, Black wrote. The local areas of peeling paint and even previous patches I observed do not immediately reveal the extensiveness of the potential problem. Compared to typical roof leaks that have easy patch solutions, what they described is an alarming amount of water regularly coming into the building for a very long time. Nicholas Antanavica, Somerville's Inspectional Services Director, determined in a June 4th visit that students shouldn't be allowed back at Winter Hill until a leak and ceiling grid in the north stairwell are addressed. Officials selected Edgerly, Derp-de-Dur, and basically, we've been waiting for a month for a clear understanding of what's going to happen to the building and how much damage there's to the building and the name of the firm that is looking at the building, and none of this has been shared with families, so I'm learning about it from a Boston Herald article, and I should not be learning about it from a Herald article. There needs to be clear communication. Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Sacco-Clark, then Emily Leica, then Jamie O'Leary.
My name is Elizabeth Sacco-Clark. I live on Browning Road in Ward 4. I'm a parent at the Winter Hill School, and I would echo what's already been said. Please don't abandon our existing site. We need a school in our neighborhood, but tonight I'm actually here in support of the Healy School community. I've been an educator for 14 years. Early on in my career, a colleague who was about to retire told me the only thing she wished she could have done during her career was loop with students. Why, I thought, doesn't that mean that you're stuck with that most obnoxious kid again, and their parents too? But then a couple of years later, I took a job which involved looping with all of my students for 2 years. I did that for 7 years. And I'm here tonight because I was astounded at how wrong I was. And if you haven't been either the teacher or the parent of a student who is looping, you cannot fully understand the incredible opportunity that it is. I am an excellent teacher, and I always thought of myself as someone who gives all students the benefit of the doubt and who treated students with equity. And then looping showed me that I could not fully appreciate the growth of my students when I hadn't seen it for myself. You know what happens when you get that most obnoxious kid a second time? You truly learn to love them, and they learn to trust you. I had to stop looping when COVID forced us into cohorts, and one thing that hasn't changed in all my years is that some students aren't ready to trust any teacher until May. And those kids have to start from square one again every September. Looping is an extraordinary gift for students and for teachers. It teaches groups of students and adults alike that conflict and frustration are things we can work through and all come out stronger on the other side. Please don't give it up without a thoughtful and thorough examination of its benefits. Thank you.
Next, we have Emily Leica, then followed by Jamie O'Leary, and then Meredith Brown.
Good evening. My name is Emily Lalka. I live at 99 Thurston Street. I have a rising 3rd grader, 5th grader, and an 8th grader at the Healy School. At the last Public School Committee meeting, it was announced tonight the looping change at Healy would finally be on the agenda. I look forward to this issue being discussed tonight, so as a community, we may receive additional information about the process and greater transparency about how and why this decision was made the way it was to eliminate looping. As you've heard, it can be an absolutely phenomenal program. I hope tonight's discussion will help address questions we have not received a response to in writing, including, can the decision be paused for a year? How are families new to the school being informed of the change? And how will the decision-making and rollout process for a major change to our educational and instructional classroom model be different in the future? To make sure that families are informed and can provide feedback before a major policy change or shift in the educational model or school staffing structure is finalized and announced in a single email. Having this discussion tonight is a step toward rebuilding trust in processes and a step toward acknowledging families are also partners in creating an innovative and supportive environment for teaching and learning. Going forward, again, we hope we can work in collaboration with our Healy families, our staff and school administration, and district administration to be a part of such proposed changes in the future of our children's education, and to understand if there are struggles or frustrations with the existing structures. I also ask, as a neighbor of the Winter Hill Community Innovation School, for a plan that rebuilds a new, safe community innovation school at the existing site. My kids are devastated that the looping model is changing. They don't understand why, and when they asked what the alternative would be, I have to look down the street and say, well, your neighborhood school is closed. Thank you.
Next, we have Jamie O'Leary, followed by Meredith Brown, and then Emily Hankel. Okay. Oh, Jamie's on Zoom, so I guess, yes, this begins the Zoom section of our meeting. Jamie, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie O'Leary. I live at 91 Thurston Street, and I am, like many others here tonight, a parent of a student at the Winter Hill Community School.
Can you pause for just a second? Can we fix her audio? I can hear, but only barely.
Let me know when I'm good.
Trouble with the Zoom. Or Jamie, can you speak louder?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can we reset
okay,
the clock?
I will shout this. Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie O'Leary, 91 Thurston Street, a parent at the Winter Hill Community School. I want to echo what many others have already said tonight, that I want to support a rebuild of the school in its current location, but I'm also here with a question that I hope can be answered during the Winter Hill Community School update later on the agenda. Now that the engineering assessment is continuing on through the summer, yet we're not going back, we know we're not going back to that school, I would like to know if the results of this assessment are going to be incorporated into the feasibility study, or if the building will need to be reassessed again, taking more time as required as part of the feasibility study. So I look forward to hearing more about that later tonight. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Meredith Brown, followed by Emily Hankel, and then Shauna Powers. And these are all, I believe, on Zoom. Meredith?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Meredith Brown. I'm the parent of incoming students at Winter Hill and Capilano. I'm at 90R Franklin Street. Thank you very much for taking my comment. I just wanted to say that I've been closely following all of the various meetings and media coverage around the future of the Winter Hill, and I have some real concerns about some of the options that the city seems to be pursuing, the alarming lack of transparency in the consideration of those options, and whether the educational and psychosocial needs of the student population are really being fully taken into account. I know that there's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with the Winter Hill community, but to be totally honest, to echo Eileen's comments previously, I find it alarming that parents seem to be finding out a lot of this information, including the views of the Director of Infrastructure and Asset Management, secondhand from the media before hearing it directly from the administration itself. So my request of the school committee would be to please be as proactive as possible and use all of your collective expertise to help define and communicate what the requirements for our future school facilities should be from an appropriately nuanced educational perspective. Help us advocate for what's best for our students, and please help us advocate for actual transparency throughout this process. And to that point about transparency, I just want to echo the previous comments about the elimination of looping, which I'm really only recently hearing about, but seems to have happened without really much transparency at all to speak of. So the fact that major changes like that are happening to educational policies and practice without bringing the perspective of families is troubling to me. So I just would request that the school committee do everything in its power to restore that trust with families and that transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Emily Hankel, then Shauna Powers, and then finally, Carol Vogans. Emily, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Emily Henkel, and I am a resident at 13 Troll Street, and I have...
Pause, now we can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Emily Hinkle. I live at 13 Troll Street, and I have a rising first grader at Winter Hill and a rising pre-K at Winter Hill. However, neither of them will obviously be going to the Winter Hill building. And so I'm here again to just, and I said this before, I respect so many of the, I will also say that you'll probably hear some words because this is bedtime. And, but it is something that us as parents feel like we need to continue to be here and to advocate, even though it's an inconvenience for us. And we will continue to come back again and again and again to say very similar things. And I respect what everybody is doing. And I think that the school committee has done the best job that they could have done at this moment, I guess. But I am here to ask a couple things. One, again, the transparency. It's really tough to not have the information, and like many of my community members have said, to get it from different places, not from the school committee or from our administration. Two, I highly ask you to keep the building in the place where it is at 115 Sycamore Street. It is a community school. It is our community school. We are a community. All of the educational things I will leave up to you and the experts, but we know as a community what we need for our kids, and we need a place that we can walk to, that we can bike to, that we can be a part of, and that we can be connected to. And it's a real disappointment to hear that there are some city councilors and also some city officials and some city employees who are having all of these ideas without first meeting that we've had in the community to say what we want. And so we appreciate these comments that we were able to say, but we really need to have more openness in the idea of what the community needs. So again, I appreciate all the hard work that everybody has done. I look forward to working with the new superintendent as you come in on this issue. We did ask for the school to be kept together, and that is not happening, as pre-K and K are in a different building. But again, I just want to say thank you for what you have done, and please keep our school in this place that it needs to be.
Thank you. Next we have Shauna Powers and then Carol Vogans. Shauna?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Awesome, thank you. Shauna Powers, 218 School Street. I am a mother to a rising kindergarten student and rising second grade student in the Winter Hill Community Innovation School. I wanted to speak tonight about the fact that Somerville is developing multiple large towers in Assembly Row, Union Square, Brick Bottom, Inner Belt, and not requiring these developers to build schools. Other cities make this part of requirements for developers. We have a major school infrastructure crisis. Why don't we do this? How are we going to expect families to continue to want to live here or come here in the first place? This feels very much like Planning 101 to me. It feels like we're literally just giving the city away to these master developers so they can make a lot of money and walk away. Meanwhile, our schools are crumbling, and I certainly hope that each and every one of you have watched the surveillance video released by Fox 25 News of the huge chunk of concrete that fell in the stairwell. The city should be completely ashamed of the state they allowed this building to deteriorate to. Mayor Ballantyne, you had a voice for many years as a city councilor. Mr. Raish, the same goes for you in your role as Director of Engineering. Please finally prioritize our children in our community. Lastly, the Winter Hill Community Innovation School does not want to rebuild anywhere else in the current location. This is our neighborhood. This is our community. Please listen to us and please communicate with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Carol Vogans. Carol?
Yes. My name is Carol Volgaris, and I live at 166 Sycamore Street. I am a parent of a rising Winter Hill first grader, and I have a 2-year-old who I hope will enroll in pre-K at Winter Hill in 2025. I look forward to learning more at tomorrow's information meeting about the plan to temporarily move school operations to the Edgerly and Capuano buildings. I am disappointed that this plan does not keep the school community together, and I'm especially sensitive to the impact this has on families with children in 1st through 8th grade as well, and siblings in pre-K or kindergarten. However, I do understand that finding space to accommodate the entire community on such short notice may not have been possible, so my disappointment is chiefly that this move became necessary at all. I hope that steps will be taken to ensure that current Winter Hill students can safely travel to their temporary school sites, including by providing means of safely crossing McGrath Highway on foot or bike, and possibly by busing students from the site at 115 Sycamore Street. In the long term, I want to express my strong support for taking whatever action is necessary to keep the site at 115 Sycamore Street as a neighborhood school. Our school is a centerpiece to our community and our neighborhood. We are a neighborhood school. We love our school community, and the best long-term strategy to keep this community together is to keep the school at our current location. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. So next, we will take our awards and citations. It's that time of year. And we'll start with the retirement of our own Nomi Davidson. Ruth Santos, I believe you're kicking these off. Oh, hold on one second. Do that again.
It's my honor tonight to read, yes, good, the resolution for Nomi Davidson. Whereas Ms. Nomi Davidson grew up in Chicago and began her career in early childhood in Somerville in 1975, and whereas Ms. Davidson holds a BA in Sociology and Education from the University of Michigan, an M.Ed in Early Childhood Education from the Antioch University of Open Education, and a Master of Social Work from Boston University, and whereas Ms. Davidson became the Assistant Director of the Even Start Family Literacy Program in the Somerville Public Schools in 1990, and whereas Ms. Davidson recognized the need for multilingual and multicultural staff to support early childhood programs and to reflect the faces of Somerville's changing population in the early 1990s. And whereas Ms. Davidson created the Somerville Partnerships for Children to provide access for childcare in 1996, supported by a $1 million grant. And whereas Ms. Davidson consolidated grant funding streams for the Partnership for Children, the Somerville Family Network, and the Parent-Child Home Program to create the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative in 2009. And whereas the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative has provided linguistically accessible and culturally competent programming and services for Somerville families since 2009. And whereas Ms. Davidson has demonstrated exceptional commitment to ensuring equitable access to those programs and services. And whereas Ms. Davidson was an adjunct professor at Tufts University teaching classes in collaboration for children's school success. And whereas Ms. Davidson believes deeply in the strength of collaboration and the importance of relationship building, as evidenced by her close connection to community partners. And whereas Ms. Davidson has shown exceptional commitment to the development of cross-sector support for the well-being of children and families. And whereas Ms. Davidson's ability to identify individual strengths and create connections has enhanced professional pathways for countless staff and sparked many initiatives throughout the community. And whereas Ms. Davidson implemented outstanding models of distributive leadership and reflective practice throughout SFLC, now therefore be it resolved that the Somerville School Committee publicly and proudly expresses its deepest gratitude for her leadership and vision in guiding our city's schools and the safety of our students, and wishes her a long, happy, and healthy retirement with her family, and be it further resolved that the resolution be recorded in the minutes of tonight's meeting and that a framed copy be presented to Ms. Nomi Davidson. And with that part over, there are a few of us here who have a few words to say of our own to Nomi. 8.5 years ago, I started work with Summer Promise at the Cummings, which was housed along with SFLC at the time. And as I did my round of introductions, I was introduced to Nomi Davidson as probably the kindest person you'll ever meet, which turned out to be a huge understatement. Not only is she the kindest, but one of the most thoughtful, caring, inclusive people I've had the privilege to work with and to call a friend. Nomi's depth of knowledge and commitment to Somerville families has led to fabulous collaborations, innovative programming, and some wild and wacky events involving Honk, goats, and Clifford the extremely big red dog. She's left a legacy of honoring colleagues as family, of respective distributive leadership, and of being able to see the funny side even in challenging times. She's guided the SFLC through many ups and downs and places and spaces, and she's done so gently with an unwavering leadership, patience, and wisdom. And as her successor, I cannot thank her enough for this rich inheritance, and I promise to use it wisely. There are just a few people of the many who would love to have been here tonight and who've had the good fortune and joy to work with Nomi. Fernanda Villar couldn't be here, but she wanted to thank Nomi for 25 years of mentorship, listening, using on-the-ground experience to inform the work, and for truly believing in creating a pipeline of equitable access for Somerville families for decades. She sends her love and gratitude to you. And I'll hand over to Regina Bertoldo.
I would not sleep tonight if I omit the fact that Nomi and I have been dating for all these years. With Phil consent, Nomi has been my date in all the events that we go in the evening, and I hope that continues, Nomi. But I want to talk about the work that started with Nomi and Sarah. In 1990, Nomi was hired to do 93 home visits, and at that time, our population was changing. Nomi speaks English and Hebrew, and our population was, at that time, Spanish, Haitian Creole, Vietnamese, and Portuguese. Nomi then went on and hired 4 multicultural, bilingual, bicultural home visitors. And that was the beginning of all the work that brings me here, brings all the multilingual staff at SFLC, and lay down the ground that we all do on this strong foundation of in respect of biculturalism and bilingualism and all the students and families we work with in Somerville. I want to finish with, I'm going to change a little bit Nelson Mandela's quote just to update to today's world. If you talk to people in a language they understand, that goes to their head. If you talk to them in their language, that goes to their heart. And ours also is the language of love that we all learned with Nomi and with Sarah. Thank you.
Any words from members? Should I just go in a circle? All right, so I'll start with Dr. Ackman.
Sorry, and now I pass to Maura.
Oh, okay.
Mendoza, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Thank you so much. I started working for the SFLC in 2013. Nomi called me one day and said that they needed music for children and families, that there were a lot of Spanish-speaking families, Portuguese-speaking families, and I was thrilled, like singing for children. And at the end of the summer program, she asked me if I wanted to join the liaisons team. This was year number 2 of the liaison team program. And I said, yes, why not? And the rest is history. This was 10 years ago, and every Friday morning during liaison meeting, we used to joke around saying that Nomi is our own unicorn, and working at SFLC is like a Shangri-La because we get paid to listen to families, to work with families. And I've been very privileged to be part of that group because of you, Nomi. And lastly, I want to say that like a rock, that hits the surface of the water, the expanding ways of Nomi's love and mystic of work will keep expanding over the years to come, not only at the SFLC, but the Somerville Public Schools and beyond. I love you, Nomi.
Right now, we'll go around. Dr. Ackman?
Thank you. I will try and be as brief as possible. Nomi, there's just so many children in this world whose lives are better as a result of your work. So thank you for that. In Judaism, a high value is tikkun olam, which is healing the world. The work you have done has helped to heal the world and improve the lives of youth in Somerville. And you are a model. I hope we all can, achieve the collaboration, the thoughtfulness, and just the deep caring for children. And I think if we keep that at our core, we will all do, scratch the surface to touch on the amazing type of work that you have done. So on behalf of Somerville, Toda Rabah, and really wishing you absolute joy and peace in your retirement.
Mayor Ballantyne?
Thank you. I want to echo, through you, Chair, to my colleagues, to Nomi. I want to echo everything that's been said. My first child entered the Somerville Public Schools in 2002. I had heard about you back then. I very quickly learned that you were welcoming, that you understood that our community was changing. The fact that you brought in a multicultural team, to me, was just amazing, but it made me feel like that we're all welcome. And as has been said in the citation, you have a tremendous sense of collaboration, of warmth, of giving. Your smile is infectious. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for our community, our kids, and I wish you, all the best in the next chapter, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing you around a lot. Thank you.
Ms. Patone.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Green. Nomi is such an incredible, fly under the radar innovator. And this work that you partner with so many people who are all here supporting you to systematize this idea that engaging with families makes a huge difference in educating and the district's ability to educate our youth. And families as our students' first and most important educators. And I think that's really the ethos of the work that you've done. And it's just been so important, and like I said, kind of flying under the radar of this movement. I would call it a movement that has been part of, and really the foundation of this district's work. I really appreciate how, I even think of examples where you brought in families that we don't traditionally hear from to school committee meetings, to subcommittee meetings, and talking about policy concerns. And that's just was so incredibly powerful, the work that we do. Personally, I appreciate your ear and advice, encouragement and support as a parent. Before I even came on the school committee. You're so present in the community and so encouraging to parents to step up and participate, and it has really been impactful on my work. So I want to thank you for that. And just thanks for your leadership and partnership, and I think about sort of the culture that you've instilled in this work and this family that you created with your partner, Sarah Davila, to really bring families into the fold at Somerville Public Schools. So thank you.
I'm going to stop calling people, just go in the order, save us some time.
Nomi, it's so nice to see you.
Sarah, is your mic on?
Yep.
Okay.
So I think of you as a consummate community builder and community organizer. You know everyone, you know everything, and you're always willing to help. I can't really remember when I met you, but I remember there was this moment when EEC tried to shut down my youngest child's daycare. And none of us had kids who were school age, and you took an hour out of your day to sit down with us in the SFLC playroom, to bring our kids, to strategize with us about what the heck were we gonna do, and to offer all the connections and advice that you have. And that was just one group of people in one moment, but you did that every day for every person who needed your help, and I thank you for that, and the community thanks you for that. And while you may not be working for the Somerville Public Schools anymore, I look forward to collaborating with you for many more years to come.
I don't know what else I could say that hasn't already been said. I know that we don't know each other super well, but thank you so much for all your years of service.
Similarly, I think my colleagues have spoken really well about all that you've given our community, our children, and us. Just so grateful that you found Somerville, that we found you. I feel weird that I can't barely see you over the podium. You know, as my colleagues have said, you are so present in the community. I look forward to seeing you in the years to come. You've been a part of my children's education. You have, as others have said, established such a welcoming culture in our community and our schools, and I'm just so grateful. And enjoy your retirement thoroughly.
Hi, Naomi. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm so happy that I get to be here tonight to celebrate you. I was actually Googling to try to find if there were any unknown tidbits or details I could find, and one of the top hits is that apparently you are a mixed martial artist ultimate fighter based out of Memphis, Tennessee. So I just wanted to share that with the public. That might be a different Naomi Davidson. No, I wanted to just say, you know, one of the best parts of being in public service and working for the government is to meet people like you. There's like this invisible web of local heroes that makes this community what it is, and it's just been such an honor to get to interact with you over the last couple of years. So thank you and congratulations.
I think my colleagues covered most of everything. I will say I'm a little sad that I didn't get to know you better, because you've done some amazing things, and I really appreciate all of the family engagement work you've done, and hearing all of my colleagues' stories about the years you've been in the district. And so I'm just feeling a little sad that I didn't know you better while you were here. But good luck, and hopefully I'll see you around. Thank you.
Through the chair, so had I known that fact, I would have given you as much space as you needed at the Edgerly for SFLC. There would have been no questions. I met you in 2012 when I was interviewing to be the principal of Winter Hill at the Winter Hill Community Innovation School, and it was early on that I knew that there was something special about you and something special about your team. What I didn't realize is the scope, the outreach, and the work that you all have done to make Somerville a place where parents, where families, where caregivers can get the services and supports that they need. And I've said this to some of my colleagues, but because of your vision, your leadership, your work, we as a school district have credibility with families. Without that, we would be struggling. So I just want to say thank you for all of your work.
Naomi, I also just want to echo, since I came here 6 years ago, you have been a presence of just pure joy and commitment. You personify I think the thing that we all strive for of trying to be truly community-based schools and have our kids and our schools at the center of what we do, and your true love and commitment to Somerville and your ability to bring people into this work has been inspiring for me. It's been a model of what I've tried to do in the work of this interim year, and I'm just so grateful for all that you have given for us and all that you have taught me. So thank you so much.
So I love that, Regina and Sarah are here to celebrate you, because the three of you were my introduction to Somerville Public Schools way back in 2013 as a father of a newborn, serving on the boards of the Welcome Project and the Human Rights Commission, and just starting to wrap my head around this idea of what does it mean to make Somerville live its values in terms of inclusion, in terms of diversity, in terms of what now is that overused term of equity. And what struck me then, and strikes me now, is in a world where everyone thinks they value equity and everyone thinks they're trying to be a voice for everyone, the fact that you lead with humility, the fact that you lead with knowing that actually doing the work of equity is the work of not just external change but internal change, and the fact that you model that for your staff and model that for the district, you model that for the community as a whole, and what that has turned out to mean is that we know, obviously, reasonable people can disagree on things, and they always will. But the one thing we know, we the school committee can take for granted, is that FSFLC will do the work. They will do the innovation. They will do the thinking. They will do the hard conversations, and they will keep the ball moving forward. And that is a gift that, while we can take it for granted, we never should, because it is a rare thing nationally. And for all that she is embedded in the community, the number of times when I would be at statewide or even national events talking about equity and education, et cetera, and I'd say I'm from Somerville, and people go, "Oh, do you know Nomi Davidson?" And I'd be like, "Why, yes, I do." Speaks to the fact that your work has been seen and has mattered. And for all of as Dr. Akin started off by saying, I want to finish by saying, all of the children whose lives are better because of the work you've done, allow me to say on behalf of the City of Somerville, thank you. So we're going to do all the resolutions, and then we're going to do the introductions to the new administrators, and then we'll take a recess so people can shake hands and all that stuff. Which brings us to our next resolution, Dr. Phillips. Oh. Before you say anything, I'm sorry. Ms. Davidson, do you want to say anything? If you're going to say anything, use the mic.
I want to thank Sarah. She was kind of my, what do you call it? Friend. But it all started many, many years ago with Sarah and Regina, and we built this team, and it's all about the team, the families, listening to the community, and building it together. And if that's the legacy we leave, that's what's most important. And I wish for a secure home for the SFLC. And I wish for equitable compensation for the SFLC. And I thank you for sustaining us. We are institutionalized now, and I never thought that would come to be, so thank you.
Dr. Phillips?
All right, Dr. Curley, you ready? Whereas Dr. Jeffrey Curley joined the Somerville Public Schools during school year 2017-18 as a superintendent fellow from the Harvard Graduate School of Education and served as chief of staff for 4 years before becoming interim superintendent during school year 2022-23. And whereas Dr. Curley led the expansion of district-wide after-school access through strategic partnerships, SPS's response to COVID-19 mitigation, served on Somerville's Children Cabinet, and as the liaison to the school committee's Rules Subcommittee before stepping in to ensure a smooth transition from one superintendent to another. And whereas Dr. Curley's strong strategic thinking, moral compass, humility, compassion, and determination to lead with joy enabled the district to make significant progress on key priorities while filling critical staff roles and securing a historic budget increase for the public schools as the interim district leader. And whereas Dr. Curley's crisis management skills enabled Somerville Public Schools to withstand the emergency closure of the Winter Hill Community Innovation School and successfully relocate students and staff to new buildings for the last 2 weeks of the school year, earning high praise from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And whereas Dr. Curley's adaptive leadership skills are acknowledged and respected by elected officials, district leaders, the Somerville Educators Union, educators, families, and students alike, and whereas Dr. Curley may be the only Somerville superintendent ever to be immortalized in song, no one truly understands Somerville's unique flavor except the folks here. Let's hire the interim guy. And earn the nickname Super Curly from Mayor Ballantyne. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Somerville School Committee publicly and proudly expresses its deepest gratitude for Dr. Curley's service to Somerville's educators, students, and families, and his leadership guiding the Somerville Public Schools. And further resolved that this resolution be recorded in the minutes of tonight's meeting and that a framed copy be presented to Interim Superintendent Dr. Jeff Super Curley Curley.
Shall we do this again?
What's up, Doc? I don't know where to begin, so I'm just going to extend my gratitude to your family that also made a lot of sacrifices in order for our district to be what it is and be where it is. Yeah, appreciation doesn't begin. Thank you.
I appreciated our Friday morning walks. You know, I appreciated your partnership. You know, it's been a interesting and challenging year, but I will just say that, you know, you smile, but I mean, there was a smile on your face, and it was not out of jest. It was someone, you know, talking about, okay, I have the energy, let's go. We'll make it through it, you know, as long as we, you know, keep on talking and sharing. And yes, and I will forever call you Super Curly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Curley. You're incredibly humble, thoughtful, truly collaborative. I really appreciate your innate ability to look at problems from all angles and to reach out for experts when necessary, and to contingency plan, which is something near and dear to my heart as well. I've really enjoyed working with you for the last 6 years, starting from when I think you were the fellow when we were designing a workshop for the school committee to try to do our long-range planning, and just incredibly creative and willing to work together on a crazy idea to how can we get ourselves to prioritize things well, and really pulled that off and led that for the school committee. It's been such a challenging year. Important to acknowledge that, and I just had so much trust in your leadership. And thank you, and I really look forward to hearing about your next journey.
I realize I treat these things more like wakes than anything else, but so here's what I would say at your wake, Dr. Gurley. You are so incredibly fun to work with. I really appreciate it. I think the first time I realized you were super cool, I had asked Mary for the district's MOU with the police department, and she really didn't want to give it to me. And you called me up, kind of secretly, and were like, hey, do you know about this other MOU from the Attorney General's office? And I thought, well, I do know about that MOU, and this guy is pretty awesome that he does too. And then I think you kind of solidified yourself in my eyes when we were working on the school committee's proposals for metrics and thresholds during COVID and how we were going to reopen the schools. And you, me, and Laura were like working until like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and one of us would have this great idea and we'd write this whole proposal. And then we'd go pitch it the next day, and we'd end up being super frustrated and awful and just be like, okay, I give up, it's awful. And then the other one would pick it up and write the next proposal for the next day. And we went back and forth, until finally you took it over the finish line with the team. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to have gotten to work with you. If you ever need a ride or die at work, just give me a call.
Dr. Curley, I remember when Mary Skipper announced that she was leaving to take the position in Boston, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, what are we gonna do? And, I was really glad that she put a new leadership structure in place. I was pretty newly elected to school committee at that point and didn't know you very well, but it's just been amazing working with you, and just your prompt and precise communication, your ability to contingency plan and just stay cool in the middle of a crisis like the Winter Hill building, and just to just the speed with which that came together with the securing the space at Tufts and the busing. It was just really, really amazing work of planning and partnering. And it's been an honor to work with you, and I wish you the best in whatever comes next.
Thank you. I didn't think I was going to be emotional, and then it's my turn, and here we go. I remember that moment too, and I had seen your resignation on our personnel report like a month before that, and it hadn't been discussed, and I was totally freaking out. And when you agreed to stay on for the year that you had not intended to give us, I was just full of gratitude. So thank you, and as Dr. Ackman said, thank you to your family for giving us this year, and what a year it was. I also, I want to say that your work with me in food distribution during COVID was just amazing, so thank you for that too. And yeah, I wish you the best. I wish your family the best. I hope you don't leave town. I know I'll see you around if you don't, and I'm glad.
So when we were celebrating Nomi, I talked about how one of the great parts of being an elected official is that we get to meet these incredible people in the community. And another side of this job is that we get to work really, really up close with each other, with other elected officials, with other staff. And especially when things are kind of going off the rails and when there's really intense stuff going on and you're sort of in the cockpit, you just get to see, you know, what people are made of, often over a very short time frame, right? I've only been on the city council for a few months, but I've gotten to work closely with you on a couple different things. And it's just completely blown me away to get to see you up close working, you know, kind of behind the scenes on frantic phone calls, and I know that I am just one of the many, 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 many people that you were talking to. And I just want to say that I'm not exaggerating. Every single time that you would tell me something, I just knew that it was considered, that you were bringing a lot of legitimacy to what you were saying, that you were not just flying off the cuff with something that just popped into your head, and it was borne out, and that's something that I really aspire to, and I just really want to, you know, take this moment to appreciate that, and the kind of the respect I have for that. So thank you.
Where to begin? I'm not going to lie, it's going to be really hard to be on school committee without you here at SPS, but somehow we will persevere and make it work. I really appreciate you stepping up to do this. I can't imagine someone better to lead this district in this transition year. You have proved to be calm, to have an amazing sense of humor, even in the most difficult of times, which I personally really appreciate. And I definitely want to echo everything my colleagues have said, especially the part about thanking your family, because I know it was a big sacrifice for them. So thank you, and good luck with whatever the next chapter is.
Thank you. So yeah, you've been through a lot, even including a lot of different names of what he was going to be. He started off as acting superintendent, then I think it was, I'm almost interim superintendent, then I really am almost interim superintendent, and then finally you became interim superintendent. And you know, I've said this to you before, and I'll say it here, that it's been a pleasure to work alongside you, because everything that you have faced, there hasn't been one thing that has been easy for you in terms of directions, in terms of COVID, in terms of buildings closing, in terms of, you know, alternate transportation, all of these things. And you took every one of these challenges and you met them with precision, with efficiency, and you did it as if you had been in the job for 10, 11 years. And if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that coming into a district. And it's been my pleasure to watch you grow. And I'm so grateful, I know, for your leadership and trusting me to do the things that I needed to do on the operations side so that you could focus on the things that you needed to focus on. So for that, you know, I am very, very grateful.
I won't say much. You know how much I admire and love you. I want to echo the thank you to your family. The last 5 years have been super challenging. I have learned and grown so much because of you. I admire your work ethic and your humility most of all. Thank you for seeing me for who I am, for encouraging me to be myself, and for having my back. Don't go far, we're gonna miss you.
So, at graduation, Jeff told the story about how Mary and I kind of surprised them with the, oh, by the way, you need to do this job next year, a year ago. And the night before we had that meeting with him, I was having trouble sleeping, and I was like, if he agrees, and we knew we were going to convince him because, again, he'd resigned a month earlier, I was like, he and I will talk more than we've ever talked before, and I really hope our friendship can survive it. And that was when I thought we'd have a relatively normal year. It has been, I won't say it's been a joy, but it has been an honor. It has been, I struggle to imagine getting through this year as chair with anyone else as superintendent. You know, I think we've been honest with each other. I think we've had each other's back. I think it's been an honor. I think that's the best way I can put it. I think Somerville was blessed to have you here this year. I think like the fact that we were able to do all the things we were able to do with an interim speaks to how extraordinary you are. I have tried to recruit him to work with me going forward. I have not yet been successful, but I have other job openings to point out to him. And I hope that once you forgive me for shanghaiing you into this role, I look forward to our friendship continuing into the years to come. You're a joy, and I love you, man. Thank you. All right, I think that concludes our resolution, so we can do the. Oh, Dr. Curley, go ahead.
I want to say just a quick thank you to everybody here. I've been reflecting on the year and on my time in Somerville, and many of the things that we've all gone through have been named. The para-contract fight, the Powder House Studios authorization, COVID reopening. Many of you have named how I'm really good at contingency planning, and I wonder why that might be. But I reluctantly stepped into this role because I thought it was what would be right for this year, and I knew it was going to be a really tough year. No one prepared me that I would have to announce my fake retirement right after Nomi Davidson's real retirement, so this may be the toughest moment that I have faced. But, you know, everything I said about Nomi, like, I really love about Somerville. Like, this is the community of people that steps up for kids and gets it done through whatever challenges we face. And it is a bittersweet moment for me, but it has been a true honor and a privilege to work with you, Nomi, to work with you, Catherine, Chad, Jess, Ruth, Maura, Regina, everyone on this committee. It has been an incredible journey, and I'm so grateful for all of the relationships and connections and all that we have accomplished together. So thank you so much.
All right, that concludes the resolution. So I believe that brings us to. Fine. Ms. Krepschen?
January 2021 until June of 2023. And whereas Mr. Green had previously served as chair from January 2018 until January 2019. And whereas during this term as chair, Mr. Green created and chaired the Special Policing Subcommittee. And whereas Mr. Green led the school committee through 2 superintendent searches, chairing the screening committee for the second. And whereas Mr. Green has tirelessly guided the Somerville School Committee to always maintain focus on what is in the best interest of the students of Somerville Public Schools. And whereas Mr. Green has been a steadfast advocate for equity with respect to our students as well as Somerville Public School staff. And whereas, during Mr. Green's tenure as chair, the Somerville School Committee negotiated several new contracts which established groundbreaking paid parental leave benefits for Somerville Public School employees. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Somerville School Committee publicly and proudly expresses its deepest gratitude for Mr. Green's efforts and service to Somerville's educators, students, and families. And further, be it resolved that this well-earned resolution be recorded in the minutes of tonight's meeting and that a framed copy be presented to Mr. Green. Dr. Echo?
You stepped into the chair role at a difficult time. I think that's an understatement. You rode through a difficult time. Really hoping we have greener pastures on the horizon. The work you have done, the thoughtfulness with which you have done it, is a model and is quite impressive. A lot has happened in the time that you have been chair. Your daughter's gone from a first grader to a fourth grader, is that right? And again, I want to thank her because there have been nights where she's gone to bed later because you have been here for your community. So thank you. Thank your amazing daughter, and enjoy grad school.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the thing that sticks out most to me is on this resolution is the steadfast advocate of equity with respect to our students as well as our staff. I thank you for that because we've had conversations and we know that we don't want equity to just be a buzzword, that we want to make very deep and intentional progress on that. And you've always been a thought partner in, trying to advance that besides all the other things that you've done. But thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for your leadership over these last few years and certainly stepping in, not only during COVID, but also, as was said, 2 superintendent searches. Thank you.
Through you. Mr. Green, thank you so much for your patience and your passion navigating some really hard years. Mr. Green is such a hard worker, but he's a cool cucumber at the same time. So people don't always realize how incredibly thoughtful he is. I reach out sometimes and I know he already knows the things I'm going to ask him about and has thought about them deeply, but at the same time is always willing to listen and hear out different perspectives. I want to echo Chair Green centering equity in all the work that we do, and I think also being you were the chair when we first launched our first equity training for the district and when we put out our first equity policy, and I think that was incredible foundation for the work that we've been doing for the last 5 years. So I thank you for your leadership on that. And I really look forward to you having the opportunity to be back in the horseshoe with the rest of us, because I've done that transition and it can be incredibly powerful to have that experience as the chair and then be back in the horseshoe, being able to, provide that perspective and leadership and have a different kind of voice. And I also want to reiterate thanking you for your patience. I think you've had to lead as the only elected person of color, and it's a pretty significant position, and you've just been very patient with the rest of us as we learn and grow and evolve, and I think that your headset is always about us learning and growing together, so thank you for that.
Sorry. So I think back to when I joined the school committee, you had endorsed somebody else in my race, and yet when I joined the committee, you quickly became one of my closest allies, and you put up with an insane number of phone calls and texts trying to figure out which end was up and what was going on, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for your leadership on school policing. We were able to get to where we got to because of your skills, your leadership, your commitment to the issue. I think because of you, we got to several really good contract resolutions. We were able to reopen our schools during COVID. We made it through this year. Thank you for all that you have done, all the sacrifices you and your family have made, and all the work that we still get to do with you in the next couple of years.
It's been an honor to work with you as chair. I really appreciate how your views and your opinions are always so well thought out and well informed. And like, even if there is disagreement among the membership, I feel like we can all trust that you have, like previous people have said, that you have really thought out reasoning behind what you're saying, and that's so important. And you're not afraid to say something that might be unpopular, that might, that might not be popular, and you're just not afraid to say things that really need to be said, and that has made you a really great chair. And just the amount of work you have put in with balancing so many different stakeholders with different ideas and different views about such emotionally charged topics, whether it's COVID, whether it's policing, whatever it is, and you handle that with grace and courage and strength, and it has just been an honor, and I hope you do amazing in grad school.
I personally appreciate your patience, the grace you show us, your honesty, your integrity. I think you hold yourself to very high standards, and I think that you encourage us to do the same. You encourage me to really investigate my my principles and to make sure that I am acting with those in mind, and I appreciate all those things about you, and I'm really glad that you're still going to be with us on school committee for a bit longer, so thank you.
Mr. Chair, I want to associate myself with everything that's been said, and so I am now the president of the City Council, so I've had for the last several months a little glimpse into how much work goes into what you make look very, very easy. Chairing these meetings, it's really complicated, and there is a lot going on that the public and that I think your colleagues probably don't necessarily see, and you really make it look easy. And as everyone has said, you've conducted these meetings through really, really, really difficult topics. And you're just a public servant in the truest sense. I look forward to continuing work with you.
All right, I'll turn around and talk to you. Yeah, why don't you have a seat? There you go. Awesome. Perfect. It's just like, it's a very comfortable chair. No, I've been fortunate enough to work closely with you on both sides of the house, as a building leader and as a district administrator, and I haven't forgotten what you said when I was sitting right in Ruth's seat before my vote to become interim assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction and assessment, and you said it made my heart happy to see me stepping into that role. I haven't forgotten that, but I want to let you know that it's made my heart equally as happy to be able to work with you as closely as I have for the past 4 years. And for that, I just want to say thank you.
One thing that the public probably doesn't know is that when the superintendent calls the chair, it's usually a bad thing. There's something going on that the district needs advice on, support on, and it's not just the great work that Andre does up here, it is the near daily problem-solving, strategic planning, thought partnership that any superintendent counts on. You always need that person to pick up the phone and help you work through things in real time. And Andre always picks up. He always brings just a really deep thoughtfulness and a great mind for the work of the district and the challenges that we face. And he has made my challenging year quite a lot easier because of that partnership and that trust that we have. And so I thank him for all of his service to the district and his support.
So I guess I get the last word since I'm up here. I can't imagine somebody better to have learned from for the last few years as your vice chair. I will reiterate the way that you always put children in the forefront of everything that you do. And I also want to reiterate Ben's comment about how you make the job look easy. I'm not sure that I would have stepped up to take over as chair had you not made it look easy. So we'll see how that goes once I'm in the chair. But again, just deep thanks, and I'm glad that you'll still be on the committee in the Horseshoe for quite some time. So thank you again.
No, I'll keep my remarks brief. I just want to say thank you. Serving this body as chair has been the honor of my lifetime. I think all the time in Somerville we forget how good we have it. I think we have the best, most thoughtful, most well-meaning school committee, most thoughtful, educated, intelligent, whatever positive virtue you want to use, school committee in the Commonwealth, and therefore probably in the nation. And if I have made that even a smidgen better, then I'm honored and humbled. I want to thank the staff for putting up with me. I acknowledge that I've always gotten it right, but I hope you know that I was always trying to do right by you and by the students. And for times when I didn't get it right, I apologize. I am reminding people that I'm not actually going anywhere. If anything, I'm looking forward to the comfy chair because this thing is terrible. And I think we have been well served by our leadership to date. I think we will be equally well served by leadership coming forward. I look forward to seeing Alana kill it up here. I think and I look forward to a district whose best days I think are yet to come. And I thank you all for everything. All right, now, having spent enough time celebrating those of us who are on our way out, we get to celebrate the people who are on their way in. We have a number of new administrators, starting at the very top, that we're gonna give the appreciation and warm welcome that is due. Am I starting with Dr. Kimona? All right. And like I said, we're starting at the top, so we'll start with Dr. Ruben Carmona, who come Saturday will be our superintendent of schools. I'm just going to say a few words, and you already, unless you want to say more, we'll keep going. So Dr. Carmona comes to us. Our gain is Salem's loss, where he has spent a career in urban education, working on issues of multilingual education, family engagement, all of those sticky wedges of equity that I think we think are super important. But I think what impressed the committee and impressed me was also his commitment to truly servant-based distributive leadership, the thoughtfulness about the complexities of urban education that he showed, not just through his interview process, but he's shown, especially over the last month, as he has been a partner in our work to do right by the Winter Hill community. And we look forward to your leadership come Saturday. Thank you, Dr. Carmona.
Through you, Chair. One of the most just incredibly valuable and gratifying parts of this job is finding great folks that want to join the team and be part of this work. And as I said in my remarks, what has held me up is the great folks that I have gotten to work with over the last 6 years. And we have some incredibly talented leaders and administrators who are with us here tonight. And I just want to give a quick introduction to them, starting with our new Director of Special Education, Ildefonso Arellano. I am thrilled to welcome Ildefonso here. He has served for 11 years as the Assistant Director of Special Education for Framingham Public Schools. In Framingham Public Schools, he managed an incredibly complicated system supporting the emotional and social emotional needs of, I believe it was more than 2,200 special education students in that district. He had administrative oversight over all of the special education programs in Framingham. He is a speech and language pathologist by background, is fluent in Spanish, holds a degree in communication disorders from BU and in speech and language pathology from Emerson. He is someone whose name is known throughout the state for the amazing work and the kind of up-and-coming innovation that he has brought to special education. And I am thrilled, and I am so grateful that Somerville was able to bring him from Framingham to SPS, and I would like to just welcome him here tonight. Ildefonso. Thank you for being here. I also am excited to welcome Berenice Mace-Diaz, who is going to be our new principal of the East Somerville Community School. Berenice comes to us after serving as an assistant principal in Chelsea Public Schools for the last 5 years. I believe she began her career teaching in Malden. She is a math teacher. She's also a tennis and volleyball coach, if I have that right. And she has been in Chelsea. She taught in Chelsea for 12 years before transitioning into an administrative role. She has led an incredible amount of really deep, meaningful work in Chelsea, including implementing a kind of strengthening of Tier 1 behavior strategies and SEL systems in the school level, something we've been really working on all year. She's worked really closely with families to build community and authentic partnerships. She is an immigrant from Callao, Peru. She immigrated to the U.S. in 1997, and she has came to the Boston area, I believe, to go to Tufts, and is currently living in Quincy with her wife and 2 young children. So please join me in welcoming Berenice, our new principal of the East. Just over from Berenice, we have another principal joining us tonight, Andre Pelletier, who will be the incoming principal of the West Somerville Neighborhood School. Andre comes to us from Revere Public Schools, where he just finished a principalship of an elementary school with more than 750 students and 90 staff. So West is going to be a piece of cake. It's going to be great. Don't hold me that. Take that out of the notes. Prior to his work in Revere, Andre served for 5 years as an assistant principal in Lexington. He also brings 14 years of teaching experience in K-2, both in Massachusetts and in Denver, Colorado. He is somebody really committed to fostering a great school culture. He's really committed to working closely with staff, families, and students, and ensuring, again, the same level of connection and community. He lives in East Somerville with his wife, Andrea, and their 2 boys who are avid soccer players and are attending East Somerville. And he's just an incredibly exciting and kind guy, and I'm excited that he's going to be joining us at the West Somerville Neighborhood School. Welcome, Andre. And last for me, but certainly not least, it's my pleasure to formally, I feel like you've been doing this work for a little while, but here formally recognize Ruth Santos for stepping into the incredible shoes of Nomi Davidson. Ruth is not new to SPS or the city. She has been worked for a while in the city's Summer Promise program. She was drawn back to us, we're happy to report, to work in the school district, but has kind of brought that authentic partnership with key folks like the Summer Promise Department and the city, which embed with us and hopefully will continue to embed with us. She is somebody who came to us from the UK originally, but started her career as an ELL teacher in Spain and in Turkey, and I believe taught in Miami, Florida as well. And brings that same level of connection and community and care to the team and to the work that we all loved in Nomi. And so I am incredibly thrilled to formally recognize Ruth Santos as our director of the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative. Welcome and thanks, Ruth.
Okay, and I have the honor of announcing our next 3. The first 2 are in our multilingual learner education department, which is an amazing department. First is Gladys Vijay as the Assistant Director of Multilingual Learner Education. Dr. Gladys Vijay comes from Everett Public Schools, where she served as the English Learner Department Head for Everett High School. As a first-generation American with Puerto Rican heritage, Dr. Vijay brings a personal passion and commitment to equitable education opportunities for students, something that we like here. She began her journey in education in 2014 with City Year Boston, where she worked in a 3rd grade classroom at James F. Condren in South Boston. Since then, she has held positions as an associate teacher at Brook Charter School, East Boston, English learner teacher at Nathaniel Bodwich School and Salem High School, and multilingual learner instructional coach for the Salem Public Schools. One of the things that I think we take pride in Somerville is that work-life balance. So I would just like to read a couple of things that Dr. Vijay likes to do in her off time. Outside of her work, Dr. Vijay enjoys cooking, hosting family and friends, and spending time with her dog, Obi. She is fully bilingual in English and Spanish, and she continues to develop her proficiency in Portuguese. So we want to welcome you to the family, and we are looking forward to great things from you. Are we not having anybody give speeches tonight? Because we always like to put people on the spot. No? Nothing? No speeches? I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's be nice to her let's be nice to her this year. We're going to be mean to her in the fall.
Yeah. Sorry. Stephanie Bialagas, I hope I pronounced that correctly. How do I pronounce it? Balagas. My apologies. Multilingual Learner Education Department Chair at Somerville High School. Stephanie Balagas, Master's of Ed, has been in education for over 15 years. She served as an English learner teacher for 8 years, working predominantly with high school newcomers and students with interrupted formal education, SIFE, which we know very well, and brings a passion for restorative justice, curriculum design, and leveraging student strengths and voice in the classroom. For the last year, she's been coaching teachers across the country and providing professional development through Better Lesson and Teach for America. She began her journey teaching English in a rural village of 350 people in Costa Rica. Since then, she held positions as a project coordinator for programs in professional education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and intensive English program administrator at the University of San Francisco, and an EL teacher at Braintree Middle School and at Enlace High School in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Outside of her work, because again, this is very important, and I have to say it's written here, she enjoys staying active, salsa dancing, hosting dinners with family and friends, and traveling. And she is fully proficient in English and Spanish. So we want to also welcome you to our family. Sabrina, you ready? You good? Okay. And our final, but certainly not least, is Sabrina Cambrino, our payroll manager. Very, very important job. Payroll manager. The finance office would like to welcome Sabrina in her new role as payroll manager. Sabrina came to the payroll office after 16 years of work in the SCALE program as the head clerk. In October 2018, Sabrina transferred to the principal account clerk in the payroll office. After 4 years, she demonstrated that she possessed the skills, dedication, and personality it takes to promote her to the position of payroll manager. Sabrina is doing a wonderful job during very difficult times, and we want to thank her for her diligence and dedication and welcome you to your new role, Sabrina. So congratulations.
All right. Now, with all of those hosannas and welcomes and goodbyes and stuff, we will recess for 10 minutes for people to actually talk to people. We are recessed. 1 minute. Yes, please. We will resume in 1 minute. All right, then, let's get back to work. All right, I'm calling us back to order. All right, no problem. Yep. All right. I'm calling this meeting back to order. The approval of minutes is going to be tabled, and so we'll continue with the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to start with a brief update on the Winter Hill School. Before we get too far into summer, we shared an update with staff and with families at the end of last week, just giving a few key updates on where we are with the building assessment as well as with the temporary plans. And I won't go too much into detail of what I think we've already covered, but just want to share last week and this week, the structural engineers have been throughout that building. They are going to be coming back over the next few weeks. We expect that the assessments and final reports should be due over the next few weeks as well. And that report will be made public. The mayor's office has shared that in our. It will inform our ongoing conversations with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which has been very responsive to the emergency situation. It will also inform the feasibility study that the mayor and the city council have just passed in the most recent budget. And that feasibility study, as we have discussed, will tell us the places on which we can rebuild the Winter Hill, and that too will be shared. There is a website that's being built that will house all of this information, and as soon as that's up, we'll share it out with the community. We have You've been touring different spaces throughout the city, looking at possible alternative placements for the Winter Hill to try to keep the community whole. The city and district staff have looked at St. Clements, have looked at Matignon, have looked at spaces, none of which at this time are sufficient or meet the needs of the Winter Hill for the fall. And so we feel that the Edgerly building in East Somerville, which is where the central office is located, offers the best option for the school next year. So that building, as has been discussed, is ADA accessible, has an elevator, has a ramp, and we have been working very closely on a daily basis with the city teams, with infrastructure and asset management, capital projects to kind of lay out what that space would look like to accommodate the Winter Hill in the fall. We can have grades 1 through 8 in that building, including the growing AIM program. We will need to have the 3 pre-K and classrooms, pre-K and K classrooms stay at the Capuano next year. And, you know, we've been working very closely with the principal there, Felix Caraballo, to make sure that the Winter Hill team at Edgerly and the Winter Hill team at Capuano feel included and also feel like they hold that Winter Hill identity and ethos. The city and district staff that are in the Edgerly building have begun moving out and been packing up over the last few days. We're getting the site ready for some significant work just to make sure that it's ready for students come late August. And we have been working really closely with the capital projects team to make sure that any contractors that need to come in to get that space ready are ready and able to do so. We anticipate that staff will be able to begin moving in towards the middle to late of August. We hope that families will be able to tour the building towards later August, and as soon as we have those dates, we'll be sharing them out in regular communication. I also want to highlight that the city and the district will be hosting another virtual community meeting tomorrow night, Tuesday, June 27th, from 5 to 7. And we'll be giving updates and answering questions in that meeting as well, and sharing out information as we continue to have it with staff and with families. So we know it remains a fluid situation. We know it's a challenging situation. We'll continue to do our best to communicate in real time any and all key updates.
Ms. Patone?
Thank you, Chair Green, through you. I can't not acknowledge all the hard work that's happened over the last several weeks from the district, and appreciation for the resilience of the district staff and the city staff that is going to be displaced through this process. That is not a minor thing. Particularly some of the staff has moved around from the Cummings to the Edgerly, and I just want to acknowledge that. I had a couple questions. Do we know the date for the website for kind of the formal updates from the city about the Winter Hill and the process for the Winter Hill and the Brown? Has anything been committed specifically?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to my colleagues, we're building the website, and we're hoping that, I shouldn't say the website, it's the web page and all the information. We're committed to that, and we will be putting the information up, we hope, by the end of this week.
Oh, Ms. Dion.
I'm just wondering, the city staff who were previously at the Edgerly building, are they going to be working from home, or are they being moved to like somewhere in this building?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We have no space. We can't even, the staff here rotate. We don't have the final plan. We are still exploring a lot of buildings. We have looked at every asset that we own, that other people own, and what is ADA accessible and so forth. But we don't have an exact. We're close to getting there, but we haven't allocated exactly where city staff are going to be. Our number one priority right now is the school.
Oh, 100%.
So that's been our focus. We are not, we are also working on city staff, but we're visiting all buildings, whether they're privately owned, whether they're city owned, are they ADA compliant, and we're still gathering information.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious.
Thank you, Chair Green. Through you, I appreciate the mayor's reference to all the energy that's putting into placing the current Winter Hill School, and we completely understand that work is going to take precedence over the planning work that was already in the pipeline. But I am curious, at what point are we going to get some type of update around the work moving forward? So not dealing with the current challenge, but the big picture. So thinking about the educational strategy, furthering the enrollment study, when we're going to start a community meeting process and the feasibility work. At what point will we be able to see a timeline for that work? And will that happen over the summer? How will that be communicated to the school committee and the community?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to my colleagues. The timeline has been outlined in a general manner back on that timeline chevron that was in December of 2022 that was also shared with the Joint Committee for the School Committee and the City Council. Was that in May? And it's a similar timeline. We have moved up portions of it, the feasibility study, to start that 2 months earlier. So we're looking around October, November. Let me phrase it. If you look at that timeline, and I'm referencing that because that's what everybody got, it's the RFP process. Because you need 2 months to get the RFP out. So that's the timeline we're working at. As we get the information, we will update it, and that information will be updated. But we've accelerated as quickly as possible. Again, we're prioritizing the move, and my staff knows that. We have 24 departments working on that piece, on the relocation, not only to have the school move, but also to have a healthy and safe environment. And yeah. But if we have more information tomorrow or on Wednesday, you will get updated information on Wednesday. It's really rapid fire, and again, staff have been really focused on the move.
I think Dr. Curley wants to add.
Just through you, Chair, just to add to that too, we've been meeting on I think a weekly basis now on the K-8 master plan, kind of looking at really granularly the trends of enrollment in different programs at different schools, trying to talk to principals to see what their challenges are with space in the school level, and really look at this holistically at the district level. I think the city has brought in an emergency management consultant. I think it is in the district's interest to similarly have someone kind of project managing this work, and that's something Dr. Carmona and I have talked about. This is it's a very obviously a very complicated situation simply to rebuild a school, but to do it within the context of a district with some moving enrollment and different things, like we've talked about the growth of AIM programming and where does, how does that play out over the next 5 or 10 years? So those are the things we're kind of looking at really deeply right now, and that will inform the feasibility study and the size of the project and all of the things that we have been talking about. And that work has been moving along at a good pace, and I think it makes sense as soon as there's a right point at which to kind of share an update with the committee in August, we should come back and have that give that update.
Ms. Barish?
At our last meeting, we passed a resolution in which it said that a plan would be announced by July 15th, and I was worried that that was too fast. And so I just want to express my appreciation for the speed, and I don't want to, I hesitate to say speed because it sometimes implies that there wasn't adequate care given, and I know that that's not true. The fact that you were able to come to this conclusion and find a solution so quickly so that people have adequate time to get moved out, moved in, comfortable in the spaces, whatever, small maintenance bits or adjustments can be made. I just want to express my appreciation and my admiration for that work.
Thank you for that. And I do want to just highlight that the mayor's chief of staff has been in our building every other day working with us, Rich, Melissa Woods. It was a team effort to try to figure out where we could relocate everyone and do that quickly and kind of rule out spaces that wouldn't work for the Winter Hill community and do that in a quick way. And it, we tried to strike that balance of moving as fast as we could, but being as as deliberate and as and exhaustive as we could, and making sure that we ruled out every possible space before we go about kind of upending over 100 staff and moving them to different locations to make sure the Winter Hill is accommodated.
I just want to add that as long as it may feel right now to us parents who are struggling with summer childcare, the summer break isn't actually that long, and there's a lot of work to be done still to make the Edgerly a hospitable environment for learning. So I want to thank the district and the city for their promptness on this, for the commitment of resources, and I hope that if there's anything that is needed from this body over the summer, we'll find out promptly. Ms. Patone.
Thank you, through you, Chair Green. Just to clarify, it sounds like to Dr. Curley, it sounds like the plan is to give an update around sometime in August, and that would include any information about whether or not the district has hired some type of consultant to support the educational planning, as well as possibly additional work with the group that did the enrollment study. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Continuing. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Curley.
I just want to make sure no more questions on Winter Hill, and then I want to give a brief update on the Healy looping. Okay. Great. Thank you, through you, Chair. So we have had some public comment about this. We've had some questions about the decision to discontinue looping by members of the school committee. I want to give an update on where we are. And start, I think, first by just apologizing for the way in which the decision was made and communicated by the school leadership and by association by district leadership. So there were certainly errors in the way in which the community was not brought into the conversation, especially I think our parents and caregivers, and that they weren't informed on this prior to the email that I believe went out in May from Principal Cobbs. This is a significant change to the school structure. It's something that should have been part of school site council and should have been part of PTA conferences and other key moments in which we have a chance to talk about these issues at the school level. Principal Cobbs, Assistant Principal Larte, and a number of members of the Healy instructional team are going to hold a virtual information session on Wednesday, June 28th at 6:30 to share more about the decision and the rationale, to talk directly with Healy families. And, you know, I think it's important. This is unfortunately happening on the backside and rather than where it should have been and kind of at the beginning of this process. But I think it's important that parents, caregivers hear from the ILT, the instructional leadership team members, hear from the school administration and the educators, really about why they believe that discontinuing looping for grades 1 through 4 is in the best interest of students, is in the best interest of the school culture. I would encourage any interested parties to please try to attend that meeting if they can on Wednesday night. We will record it. I know it is a tough time of year, and we have a lot of, because of all of the circumstances in the district, we have a lot of different community conversations going on right now. We'll record it and make sure it's shared out with families and with staff for anybody who can't attend the virtual meeting. But I think that is an important conversation to have at the school level. I also want to share, just as a bit of background, and Principal Cobbs has shared this with Healy parents, but just to share it with the body, there was an educator-led survey about the looping practice that came back with roughly 2/3 of educators at the Healy supporting a discontinuation of looping. Just under 10% of educators at the Healy wanted to continue looping. And so I think having that voice and that conversation is something that's important and needs to happen. And you know, I recognize, and I think Principal Cobbs and Assistant Principal Larte recognize that this has been a value and a practice that for some families, that this is sort of core to the school model. But I think hearing from the administrators and some of the educators is something that I hope can happen on the school level. Again, I want to recognize and acknowledge that the way in which the school communicated it could have been more transparent. There could have been more process involved about why the decision was made. And as a district and as the interim superintendent, and I know this is something Dr. Carmona shares, like, it pains me to hear that people feel like we were not transparent about something, didn't have the right process in place to have the conversations. Those are values that he and I both share, and so I hope that this community conversation is the start of a chance to kind of repair and hear why the school feels like that discontinuing looping is the right thing for Healy students. I am also happy to share that we had a lot of staff and community members express interest when Dr. Cobbs announced her resignation a few weeks after this, that stepped up and joined our screening team and our interview team to select a new principal for the Healy. It's always a little disconcerting when you lose someone towards the end of the year. You don't know what the quality of the pool will be, and as evidenced by the folks that were here tonight, like, Somerville attracts some really incredibly talented educators and leaders, and I'm happy to say at least the pool was very, very strong, and Dr. Carmona will have news to share, I think, very soon about the status of that search. But I think Healy will be in a good place with a really good principal come the fall. And obviously establishing that positive working relationship, establishing the communication and the processes that need to happen is going to be core to that person's work. And so I just want to thank everybody who stepped up at a tough time of year to help make that process a success. And we'll be on the lookout for an announcement soon for our Healy staff, parents, and caregivers on the status of that search. And with that, I will end my portion of the district report.
I just want to add that there's a lot of these decisions that aren't actively the purview of school committee, but one part that is, and I think speaks to, I think, Ms. Lyka's, one of Ms. Lyka's concerns, is that the lack of transparency, the communication breakdown, also to some degree speaks to a breakdown in the systems of the school site council. And so I think one of our priorities as a body for next year should be to make sure that our school site councils at the Healy and all of our schools are working at their best capacity, so that these kind of processes and procedures aren't short-circuited in the future. And I think that is something that school committee should take up in the fall and in the spring. Ms. Barish.
Thank you, Chair Green. Through you, I'm delighted to hear that the principal search is well underway and that you're pleased with the pool. That's awesome. I appreciate your comments, Mr. Green, about the school committee's role. A couple of people who emailed compared this to the changes in the UNIDOS enrollment process, and you noted that that came before a school committee. I admit that as a school committee member, I'm not entirely sure how a process like this should have happened, whether it should have come in front of school committee. And I don't know if it's appropriate to speak to that now, but if you have any thoughts about sort of what distinguishes this from, for example, the UNIDOS enrollment process, if you have anything to share, I would appreciate it, just so that I have a better understanding, and so that the community and my colleagues potentially have a better understanding.
Through the chair, it's a great question, and I think the key distinction is the UNIDOS changes involved changes to the enrollment policy of the district. So how students enter our system and in which way they're assigned to the school, and this is a change in practice regarding assignment of teachers for grades 1 through 4 students.
Thank you.
Mr. Purcell, then Mayor Ballantyne.
Thank you, Chair Green. Through you, I want to thank the superintendent for acknowledging this unfortunate outcome and situation. I'm incredibly disappointed in how this decision at the Healy was made, and I will be clear that I don't think it's aligned with what I understand the school's values are or the district's values. You know, the lack of transparency or parent participation was disappointing, and I'll be frank, embarrassing as a school committee member. I know it's not necessarily our authority to own these decisions, but often these types of things at least come forward to us. But honestly, that wasn't as important to me as having the parents part of this conversation. I'm sensitive to the perspective of educators who voted to eliminate looping, but hearing that was the data that made that decision made it stand out even more and increased my concern over the fact that caregivers and students had no opportunity to vote or engage in a conversation about such a significant change. And using a staff survey as data and putting that forward, I thought maybe there was research, analysis, data about the effectiveness of looping versus other things, but it clearly, at least that's not being communicated to us. But using only staff survey as data, in my opinion, effectively silences parents and says your opinion is not important in this decision. And it's really hard for me to stomach that, as I don't think that aligns with the values of the district or that school. I also don't agree that in all the communications that came about this, that the language around a lack of communication, and apologies for the lack of communication. I think that was misrepresenting a lack of process. So I really appreciate the superintendent standing up and saying, look, this didn't meet our bar and it didn't meet the expectations around the process around parent engagement. On the flip side, I think I'm excited about that there's been a positive pool and people feel good about the new leadership. I really challenge the district, the superintendent, the future superintendent, and whoever's the new leadership at that school to really think about the values and the mission of this school. There was a ton of work done X years ago to define this school as being founded on parent and staff involvement and collaboration. So the fact that this happened in the school that actually had that part of their value and mission it's just heartbreaking to me. And maybe it's a little personal because I was actually part of that work, so I'll be frank, and there's my bias a little bit. But I really challenge that group to say, you know what, this is what it was. We're a new school. We've evolved over the last X years, but let's go back and look at this history and see if this really aligns and how we might want to move forward to be more engaged as a community and bringing our staff and our caregivers together. I also think Ms. Barish had pointed out the questions around the responsibility to the school committee to align on the expectations regarding any significant structural changes. Like I said, if this process had gone forward where parents were part of the process and the community came together and they either made this decision or another decision, whatever decision really made sense for the school at large, generally it would come to us as an information, but that didn't happen. So I really do, I guess through the chair, ask whether or not we should be looking at our rules or our policies and whether or not there's something that can more solidify our commitment to parent engagement and parents' say in big decisions and changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say I'd like to echo everything that my colleague from Ward 5 has just said, and just ask. So, full disclosure, I was a parent of a child at the Healy School. She benefited in 2003 to 2005 on the looping. There was a tremendous amount of discussion that was made for the rationale, the pedagogy behind that, and I think that's the piece that I'm missing. And the teacher at the time was Celia Taylor. I think she was maybe a decade plus in doing that looping, 15 years plus in doing that. So I guess as she still lives in the community. There's still a lot of teachers that have been part of that looping experience that are connected with the Healy. It would be nice to also, maybe include them in the conversation so we don't lose the history and the thread and that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ackerman.
Through the chair, I appreciate my colleagues' comments and Ms. Barish's incredibly thoughtful questions. I think something that we need to think about and acknowledge, and my colleague Ms. Patone said it more elegantly than we did. I understand that this is a school issue, but families came to us because of a failure of management, and as a manager, we manage district staff manage principals. I will name it as a failure of management from my perspective. And I look forward to the discussions about how we will remedy this failure. I think to Ms. Patone's point, the data that was shared, we had a lot of talk this evening about what's best for students. It didn't seem to highlight what is best for students. So I will leave it there. I thank you for mentioning this tonight.
Okay. That concludes the district report. All right. I'm going to pull the long-range planning subcommittee report out because, frankly, I haven't had a chance to write all 2 paragraphs of it. And I will entertain a motion to approve items B, C, D, and E.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the educational programs, role management, finance and facilities, and educational programs subcommittee reports. And that was motioned by, I didn't actually see who it was, I was still looking down, Dr. Phillips, and that's seconded by Dr. Ackman. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we've already done new business A. Ms. Patone, school building maintenance report.
Thank you, Chair Green, through you. So I had mentioned briefly in our last meeting that we have this, what we've been terming a joint committee, but it's technically a city council meeting, and we are invited to participate in that. And my colleagues, Ms. Dion and Dr. Ackman, joined me on that committee. And the group, the city councils, are very open to us participating and being part of this work, but that all the minutes are going to be on the Legislar website, and I really encourage my colleagues to keep on that. But I will continue to do a report out every month or every 2 months to provide updates. I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to highlight, because I think everybody's received this. Actually, I'm looking at the wrong thing, so I don't have anything to highlight because I'm looking at the wrong report. But if anybody, oh, here it is. If anybody has any questions, we're going to meet again this Wednesday. That's going to be our last meeting of the season.
Dr. Ackman.
Through the chair to Ms. Patone, I'm asking this in a public session in hopes that it sort of exemplifies what we are supposed to do. It's something that I keep meaning to ask and forget when it's the appropriate time, so here we go. We have, water filtration systems at many of the schools, which are wonderful, but it seems like the water filters, from everyone that I've seen, is red and has been for quite some time. And so I'm wondering who owns changing those filters. To my colleagues, that's the type of thing that ends up getting discussed in these subcommittee meetings. Thank you.
Through the chair, that's something I can work with DPW on to make sure that we are monitoring, and when we see that filters are turning to red, we get them changed as quickly as possible. You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no further questions, we do have to ratify the integrated bargaining agreement for SMEA Unit C. So I'm looking for authorization to sign.
I move to authorize the chair to sign the ratification of the SMEA Unit C 21 to 23 integrated collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Ackman, second by Ms. Dion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll sign that in the morning. I will entertain a motion to accept grants.
I move to accept all federal entitlement and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to the Somerville Public Schools listed below. Private AP Computer Science Principal for Somerville High School from the College Board, $5,000. United Way Summer Step Up Program, $24,000 for community schools. I think that's it.
A motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to accept donations.
I move to accept with gratitude the donations of monetary donation from Julie Engel on behalf of Morris S. and Florence H. Bender Foundation, $2,500 to the SFLC, and another donation from the same donor, $2,500 for teacher appreciation used at our Genziano. Can I ask a clarifying question? There's E and then E. Do I keep going? Or do I stop?
No, that was type.
Okay, thank you.
A motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Dr. Phillips to accept grants. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to recommend that we participate in the National School Lunch Program for the 2023-2024 school year, as in previous years.
I move to participate in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program and the Commodity Food Distribution Program in conformity with requirements of the State Bureau of Nutrition Education and School Food Services for the 2023-2024 school year as in previous years.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Phillips, a second by Ms. Dion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to receive and place on file the student accident insurance. I can accept it, so moved.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Barish, seconded by Dr. Phillips, to receive and place on file the superintendent's advice on student accident insurance for the 2023-24 school year. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now comes the big long one. I need someone to...
I make a motion to authorize the superintendent to act on the school committee's behalf to pay bills on department accounts for which commitments have been made by bid or purchase order before the close of schools. Said bills to be ratified by the committee at the first meeting of September. Isn't it August? In August? Okay. Expand from FY24 salaries accounts funds, or expend from FY24 salaries account funds for payment of salaries, personnel under all federal grants beginning in September. Expend from the FY24 salaries accounts for funds, payments of salaries, personnel as detailed by the FY24 budget. Use salaries accounts and school operations accounts funds to pay encumbrances and salaries for summer programs. Authorize and or reauthorize school department revolving accounts to accept all monies received by school committee in connection with the conduct of said revolving accounts according to the purposes of the program or programs from which receipts in each account were derived, accept all state and federal grant monies awarded through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Department of Early Education and Care to authorize the establishment of separate grant accounts that may be expended by the school committee without further appropriation for the purposes designated in each grant proposal.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Ackerman, seconded by Ms. Barish. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, acceptance of FY24 grant fund. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept all federal entitlement and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to the Somerville Public Schools during FY24, and to authorize the establishment of separate grant accounts that may be expended by the school committee without further appropriation for the purposes designated in each grant proposal.
Motion by Ms. Barish, seconded by Dr. Phillips on acceptance of FY24 grant funds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any items from committee members? Yes, Ms. Patone.
Thank you, through you, Chair Green. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize I had the privilege to attend on Friday at the State House the launch of AMSEL, the Association of Mass School Equity Leaders. Our esteemed Director of Equity and Excellence, Kaylee Galatano, is the membership leader of that group, and it was so inspiring, so passionate, an incredibly strong and powerful group of diverse educational leaders coming together and collaborating and figuring out how to move forward this real challenging work about equity. So I just wanted to acknowledge Ms. Galatano. I also wanted to acknowledge Dr. Jessica Boston Davis, who was part of founding this group, and thank the district for our participation and I think our monetary support of this group. And I look forward to hearing more about how this work evolves and our participation in it. So thank you.
All right. Any condolences? All right, then we are adjourned.